So, macro versus microeconomics. You've probably studied economics in the past. As I mentioned, economics is concerned with questions of scarcity. It's concerned with the well-being of all people, including the unemployed, the employed, people with high income, low income. We don't discriminate. Microeconomics focus on the action of individual agents. So when you're studying how to maximize profit of a company, how to maximize well-being of a consumer, these are microeconomic questions. Macroeconomics focuses on larger issues such as growth, unemployment, inflation, trade. These are not the individual agent questions, but more societal issues of larger economies. Now, most issues are microeconomic and macroeconomic issues. Overfishing, for example, is a macroeconomic issue. It has an impact on unemployment, has an impact on productivity of production of a country, but it's also a microeconomic issue. People overfish for very individualistic reasons. They want to make more money, for example, or they don't see the impact they're having on somebody else. So we have microeconomic decisions having a macroeconomic impact. The actions in macroeconomics, we have many. To improve the macroeconomy, we'll be taking actions to control the amount of money, for example. This is called monetary policy, and we'll discuss this later on in the course. We're going to find out to what extent the amount of money can drive the economy forward. By giving people more money, can we somehow improve the economic performance of a country? Monetary policy is typically determined by the central bank of a country, and again, we'll look at central banking in some of the videos to come. So we can improve the macroeconomic situation through monetary policy. We can also improve the macroeconomic situation through what's called fiscal policy, through government spending and taxes. And this is determined through legislation. So macroeconomics studies the well-being, it studies the production, it studies general issues about an economy, but we also study how we can improve the situation we're in, and not just report it. How can we actually make things better? So macroeconomics does this, and we get a feel for what we need to do by using theories and models. Now, macroeconomics is extremely complex. To understand how all this stuff fits together, how we can optimize production, how we can decrease unemployment, how we can decrease inflation, how we can satisfy a whole bunch of needs, it's really complex. And to manage this complexity, economists use models and theories. We try to simplify things as much as possible. So we look at the world using specific theories. So a theory, as it says here, is very abstract. It simplifies things down into typically two variables to interact. A good theory is simple to understand, but it tries to grab some of the key aspects of decision-making and macroeconomics. We use a lot of theories. One of the key assumptions when we apply macroeconomics and even microeconomics, but in macroeconomics, is the assumption, let me change the color of my pen here, is the key assumption of ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus. So ceteris paribus, here we go, let me finish it off. So ceteris paribus is the assumption that all things other than the variables we're studying remain constant. So if I want to know, for example, how does consumption change as my income changes? So as my income goes up, let me zoom in here. Oh, I went in a little bit too far. As my income goes up, will my consumption change or not? So as income goes up, consumption will probably increase, but that's a kind of assuming that everything else is held constant, right? I mean, I'm not changing interest rates, I'm not changing tastes, I'm not changing a whole bunch of things. So we try to take something that's relatively, complex and simplify it. We simplify it a lot to make it work. Economists also use models, and these are much more applied. They're empirical. We use these to test our theories. So, for example, if I wanted to test my assumption between the relationship between consumption, for example, and income, well, I could have, consumption is a function of income, but it's also a function of, maybe my age. It could be a function of interest rates. It could be a function of, tons of things. And I can use an economic model to test all of that. Does it make sense? Again, an economic model can be, very, very complex. In the videos that you'll be listening to and in this course, we'll tend to use the word theory and model interchangeably. We'll tend to use both of these concepts in the same light because we're going to simplify our models down to one or two things. We won't look at all this stuff. We'll just look at, for example, consumption and income. So they basically grab the same ideas and the same concepts. All right, well, the simple economic model that exists today, and this is probably the simplest one that's out there, is called the circular flow diagram. And this is a nice way to see the macroeconomy at work. What do we have? We have here, in this very simple diagram, two key actors. Now, again, in a macroeconomy, there's more than two actors, right? We've got households here. We've got mom and dad and the kids over here, and we have companies, right? So we have a company over here that produces some form of good or service. I can't write very well today. So we have a company over here. But what happens? Typically in the goods and services market, a household will give money. Let's put some euros up there. We'll give some money to the company, and the company in exchange is going to give goods and services, maybe a car or something like that. So I go, I give my money, and in exchange I get a car, and that's the goods and services market. Pretty basic. The next step, the next step would be to integrate the labor market. So we have not only goods and services where I pay for a car and I get a car in exchange. Well, the company is going to pay the household, right? The household's over here. That company is going to pay the household to provide labor. So we have two markets going on in this simple circular flow diagram. Households pay for goods and services. They get the goods and services. Where do the households get the money? They get them by providing labor services to the companies, and the companies give them money to buy goods and services. Now, again, super, super simplified. There's no international trade. There's no government. There's not other actors in this simple flow. There's no financial markets. But this simplification allows us already to understand many, many